Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and today we are doing a bit of a sort of like a DIY unboxing video. So I placed an order with New Directions Aromatics, as I tend to do, and I got some new things I've never worked with before, as I tend to do. And so I thought we could sort of experience them for the first time together. I think I have actually worked with a couple of these ingredients before in their unrefined states, but it's been a really long time. I know I've worked with Babassu Oil before, but it was so long ago that I think I bought it on eBay, which is like a long time ago. Like well before I started Humblebee and Me. I don't even think I'd ever actually made lip balm yet at that point in time. So yeah, I'm really excited to sort of dive into these tubs of mysterious fats and see what they're like. So come on, let's go take a look. All right, so here is my buttery haul. We've got some Tucuma Butter, some Babassu Oil, some Mowrah Butter, and some Ucuuba Butter. So let's strip off the packaging and get in here. All right, so it's pretty clear that these three are refined and that this one is definitely not. This is the Ucuuba Butter. So here we have some Tucuma Butter, and you can see that it's in shards, large, sort of yellowy white shards. This is the Babassu Oil, and this is our Mowrah. I think the Mowrah still has a plastic. Aha, there we go. So both of these look like they have melted in their containers. For the Babassu, that's not surprising because the melting point is pretty similar to that of coconut oil. I'm not really familiar enough with the Mowrah to say maybe they melted it and poured it in here. I don't know, we'll find out. And then this is definitely some brown clods. So I'm going to scoop some of these out into some small jars so that we have a little bit to play with, and so we're not going to be putting anything that we're touching back in there in the main container. So a little bit of each, I'm sure will be fine. Okay, so this, I can already tell it's pretty hard. You can hear it clinking on the spoon. Oh, this feels a lot like coconut oil. See, it sort of comes up in shavings like that, and yeah, it's quite soft. Ooh, this is quite soft as well. Ooh, that's nice. Scoops in sort of like you wish ice cream would scoop in. Scoops in like maybe room temperature butter. And then let's see if we can get a little chunk of this stuff. So right now, out of everything on this table, this is the thing that I can smell, which is not surprising because all the other butters are refined. So this is quite firm, and as I'm sort of trying to scoop it out, I'm getting lots of these little shavings kind of coming up, but not really breaking off a tip or anything. So I guess we'll have some shavings to play with and some small bits. Ooh, there's some more bits. Not that much. All right. Let's start with the Tucuma Butter. So I'll give this a little sniff here. Smells like nothing. All right. So it's pretty firm. Like giving it a squeeze here, it's not giving, and I'm applying quite a lot of pressure to that. Yeah. Feels, I don't know, kind of waxy, I guess. All right. So as I rub it into my skin here, not very greasy though. Like that actually sinks in quite nicely. It's got good slip, but it's not like coconut oil. It's not, slippery. Let's see here. Seems to melt kind of right around body temperature. So as I rub that into my skin, I can feel a little bit coming off, but if I just leave it sitting there, like nothing's happening. It's just not gonna start melting or anything. And I still can't crush it between my fingers. Interesting. Rub that in a bit. say my skin feels dry. Like there's absolutely no oily residue there, but it feels really lovely and soft, and maybe a little bit sort of protected, a bit of a film. I don't know, it's sinking in really nicely. Like I would say this has, at least in application amounts this low, it has what I'd call a dry finish. Like that's quite lovely. I think this could be great in body butters because it'll help them thicken up without adding a wax. But oh, that feels fantastic. And let's see if it smells different now that it's warmed up on my skin. Nope, still pretty much smells like nothing. All right, so onto the Babassu oil here. So Babassu is often recommended as a easy alternative for coconut oil. So if you have coconut oil allergies, look out for this one. Okay, this is way, 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 way softer than the Tucuma. It's already, so I've sort of started squishing it there, and you can see it's already starting to liquefy. I would say this is not melting as quickly as coconut oil would, but like there, you can see I can easily kind of smush it around. I've got quite oily fingers here now. So we've got really lovely slip. Like this is slippery slip. All right. Rub it around a little bit here. Smells, I don't know, sort of faintly of fat, I guess, but nothing very noticeable. You think you could safely use this oil in any recipe and not be worried about it impacting the smell of it. All right. So I've still got quite a bit of slip here on my fingers. Like this is definitely a pretty oily oil. You can see quite a lot of sheen to my hands as well, which we really didn't get with the Tucuma butter. Interesting. So I don't know, so my initial impressions of this Babassu is that it's like a slightly firmer coconut oil, and is definitely the closest thing to coconut oil that isn't coconut oil that I've sort of ever manhandled. I'm gonna go wash my hands now before we continue so that we can actually have some decent results with the last two. So this here is Mowrah Butter, and I know I've never worked with this one before. Okay, so it's quite soft. I'd say this is softer than shea butter. Not as soft as coconut oil. And it seems to have quite a low melting point. As I sort of just hold my finger here, I can feel it starting to really, really soften and even start to melt. It has, it feels kind of like maybe like mashed potatoes. It has a slight mealiness to it, which is really interesting. Actually, as I spread it out across my skin here, I can actually see little tiny granules, but these aren't the kind of granules that you get, if you've ever made a body butter with shea butter, and you get the big firm granules that can come up after a couple weeks. These are really small, and they liquefy quite easily. As you can see, my hand is getting quite oily looking. It has a nice substantive feel to it. Like when you get coconut oil on your fingers and rub it around, it just kind of feels like wet, right? Like there's not a lot of substance to it. It's a very thin oil. Or this has some substance to it. This is nice. This feels really luxurious. Let's see how it smells. This one smells pretty oily. I'm wondering if this mealy texture is because the butter has melted in the container and then re-solidified. I don't know. If you've ever handled Mowrah butter that's never been melted, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Yeah, this feels beautiful on the skin. So get a little bit of that on there, a little bit more. So you can see as I rub that around, it starts to melt really quickly. I would guess that the melting point of this is probably maybe around 30 degrees Celsius. I could check, I could look it up. All right. Ooh, this is nice. Just rub that around and see how that goes. Yeah, this doesn't smell nearly as oily as something like evening primrose oil does, but I don't know. I think this has been refined, and say I would I would definitely want to pair this with an essential oil or something in a recipe where I used a lot of it. I think the essential oils would sort of more than cover the smell. And I'm actually quite curious about what it would smell like unrefined. But I don't think you'd really like something that was made with sort of mostly this Mowrah butter without anything else to kind of hide the fragrance of the refined butter. Okay, so that's sunk in pretty quickly. This is definitely not a dry touch. Like, I can definitely feel here that there's some oil on my skin. I'm sort of even still rubbing my fingers together like this. Like, there's definitely added slip. I feel like, if I went and handled flour, my hands would be like a floured bread pan. But my hands feel wonderfully, wonderfully soft. That's nice. I'm looking forward to playing with that some more. All right, wash my hands one more time and play with some Ucuuba butter. So this looks like dirt clods for sure. You can see there's quite a lot of different sort of textures and colors to it. Like, it's not uniform really by any means. Sort of as it sits in my hand, it's not melting or anything. It's certainly not kind of doing what either of these ones did, really, really softening up quickly. It's just, this could be a pebble. Let's take a sniff here, see how it smells. Really interesting. Okay, the first thing that comes to mind is kind of barbecue, which is probably not that appealing to most of you. Not like neem oil, though. Much more pleasant than neem oil. Nowhere near as pungent as neem oil. This is a hard one to nail down in the scent department. A little bit like molasses. Yeah, that's probably where that barbecue thought comes from, because of course molasses is a really common ingredient in barbecue sauce. Yeah, for now I think the best descriptor I have is kind of molasses. So you can see as I've been squishing this around, I've managed to get a few little flecks worked off of it, but they're not melting. Like, they're still just sitting there on my hand, flecks. And these are still just sitting there like little rocks. But I'm just gonna pick up this one here and can get a feel for how hard it is. Okay, so I'm exerting a fair amount of pressure, but I can kind of squish it, but it doesn't really squish out like a pancake. It just kind of crumbles into smaller pieces. So I take a smaller one and start to squish it down here. So this has quite a high melting point, because this really is not melting terribly well on my skin. As I really start to rub it in, I can start to get it to kind of absorb, but this is definitely more work than the previous two. Definitely a bit of a tacky feel on the skin here. As I pull my thumb up from my hand here, I can definitely feel a little bit of tack that it's similar to shea butter actually, but because this butter is drier, it doesn't have the slip that shea butter has, so it actually, like, this starts to kind of border on sticky. Like, this has drag to it. Yeah, that's like, it's a very, very noticeable tack. Like, I don't know, can you hear that? Like, my hands are going as I pull them apart. Okay, now that the scent has warmed up on my hands, it smells different. There's a really nice smoky note to it that I really like. Ooh, yeah, like maybe like wood smoke. I really like that. But it's definitely quite sticky. Like, I've been sort of working with my hands quite a lot here, and you would expect the oil or the butter to start, absorbing into my skin, but like, it's still quite tacky. Let's try the back of the hand here. Yep. Still tacky. Because it's so firm, it makes it easy to take a small amount and really, really work it around, because it doesn't liquefy immediately. So you can actually kind of take this small piece and really sort of smear it all over. If you were using this to butter a slice of bread, you would be tearing tons of holes in that piece of bread. Interesting, yeah, it's really just sitting there, though I suspect as it absorbs, my skin will feel amazing. Though I do think that is true of most butters. you can see that my hands definitely don't have the really oily sheen to them that they did when I was using these two. Okay, now palms are getting a little bit less oily. Interesting. Okay, well, I don't know. I think that's about it for my first impressions of these 4 ingredients, or my sort of very, very far removed second impressions of some of them. Yeah, if you've ever worked with any of these butters before, have any favorite recipes that use them, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and check out the description box below for the links to New Directions, where I bought all of these, and some other links if you don't want to deal with their minimum order. And yeah, I will see you next time.